Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 9:30, so we'll make a start. I declare the council meeting CL25/4 open and welcome everyone here. Please note this meeting is being live streamed and the consequences of that. I shall start with our usual karakia. Whakatau, mai te wairua. Whakawātea, mai te hinanaro. Whakarite, mai te tinana. Kia ea, ai ngā mahi. Hi. I have an apology from Councillor Sol. And I understand Councillor Henry's around somewhere. Oh, she's coming in now. So just an apology for Councillor Sol. Can I have a mover and second, please? Councillor Thwaites, Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye, against carried. Not aware of any late items. Does anyone have a declaration of interest? No? Okay. There are no public excluded items, and I'm not aware of anyone for a public forum. So we can move on to the confirmation of minutes. There's quite a few of these, so we'll try and run through fairly quickly. Minutes of the Mokoroa Community Board held on the 11th of February. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Granger, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the Kadikadi Community Board on the 12th of February. Councillor Henry, Councillor Joyce, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the Waihi Beach Community Board meeting on the 17th of February. Councillor Henry, Councillor Joyce, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the Te Puke Community Board meeting on the 20th of February. Councillor Wickers, Councillor Daly, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the Makatu Community Board meeting on the 4th of March. Councillor Ray and Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. So moving on to the council and committee minutes for confirmation. We're on page 49 for those who are trying to keep up. Minutes of the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting held on the 13th of February. I'll move those. Councillor Granger, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the council meeting on the 18th of February. I'll move those. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, all those in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the annual plan and long-term plan committee meeting on the 26th of February. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, Councillor Henry, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of council on the 3rd of March. I'll move those. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting on the 3rd of March. I'll move those. And Councillor Granger, all in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Minutes of the annual plan and long-term plan committee on the 12th of March. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour and I'll ask Councillor Henry second. All in favour, please say aye. Against carried. And the last one of these, minutes of council on the 18th of March. I'll move those. Councillor Ray second. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Right, so now on page 113, which is the proposal to officially name Paiahi Wanakori Reserve, currently unofficially known as Park Road and Beach Road Reserve, Katikati. So Peter Watson.
Good morning, Your Worship and councillors. First of all, I'd just like to acknowledge the Wanakori whānau who have come down today to see hopefully the closing of a process for them. It's a very significant, important thing to the whānau, so they just wanted to observe the process and close the loop, so to speak. Yes, so you'll see we went out back in 20th November last year. You agreed in principle to the naming. We did a consultation that closed on the 7th of March. We had one submission in favour, which is really good. And basically what we're recommending is that we resolve to do the name as Paiahi Wanakori Reserve, and that'll be gazetted into a New Zealand gazettal process. And then after that, we would be talking with the whānau about some form of signage to reflect the name. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you, Peter. Does anyone have any questions to make? Is there any more questions? Just no? Okay, so I think we hear Councillor Joyce is happy to move that. Councillor Henry seconding for those three recommendations. Does anyone speak to the motion? Councillor Joyce? Oh, Councillor Henry.
Yes, I'd like to speak to the motion. I think it's great that this park has got a name now, and a very significant name, in that with Pai, and I'll have to learn his full name, but that's how we knew him when we were growing up, and he was always a lovely man, very approachable, and and yeah, I met him mostly when I came back on holiday, but the last memory of him and Kirawai were actually sitting on a park bench outside the Anglican church, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and they were just looking out over the river, and I thought, oh, what a lovely. That's that image I've got of the last image of seeing him. So I think it's very fitting and to honour Pai in this way with the family living just down the road a little way. That's something that will be there for the lineage to come, and to be able to visit that. And I look forward to seeing what we're going to be doing there to honour him in the naming of that.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Any other speakers? Councillor Joyce.
Just to echo what Councillor Henry said, but particularly the importance of, and it's in the report, of having a storyboard. So many reserves are named around this country and frankly around the world where the name's lost to history. So I think having a storyboard there that tells the story is really important. So I'm very pleased to see that's on the plans as well, so that in years to come, people that didn't know I will know his story. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. I'll just add a few words of my own. I think it's most appropriate that this name is given for the reasons that have already been discussed. I think the previous name or unofficial name of Park Road and Beach Road Reserve is distinctly unimaginative. It probably just came about through general use, but I think this one is suitably fitting for a great person from our community. So I'll be voting in favour. But I see Councillor Murray Benge wants to add a comment.
Yes, everybody round the table knew Pai and respected him, and he cared about his community, and he never hesitated to tell us what he thought and what needed to be done. So it's special, and it may be that in the future people won't know who he was, but I look at the generations that are here today with his wife and his daughters and his granddaughters, and it's going to live on. And so I think it's a mark of great respect for a very special man who was so respected by our community and familiar with what went on within his community and worked hard to make positive changes. So it's a delight to be able to vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Murray Benge. I think we're into the speakers. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And I'd just like to acknowledge the whānau for being here for this occasion. Thank you. So moving on to the next item, which is page. Oh, sorry. Right, so the next item is page 124, easement to drain sewage over part of Seaforth Road, local purpose drainage reserve in favour of council in Gross. Peter Watson, you remain for this one.
Yeah, through your worship. So this is effectively just Reserves Act statutory process we need to follow because of the sewer pipe going through the reserve. And there'll be an agreement between council's reserves and facilities department and the utilities department that protects each other's interest in that pipe going through there. And that's important, as you know, with Three Waters coming up, because that will transfer eventually to a external organisation of sorts. So this will legalise that position for that external organisation.
Okay, any questions of Peter? No? Okay, so I'd like to move it and second it for these recommendations 1, 2 and 3, please. Councillor Murray Benge, Councillor Henry. Any debate? No. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Moving on to page 130 with Adele leading this one, which is the Waikato Authority Local Authority Shared Services, or COLAB, and the draft statement of intent and half-year report. Adele.
Thank you, and through the mayor. So, yes, there are two reports inside this agenda item. The first being the half-year report. The things to note are that the learning lab that's currently being offered as part of the services of CoLab will cease at the end of the financial year, June 2025, and they have established the new professional services panel. There were 4 councils involved with the establishment of that, and we have joined that panel as of last week. So we'll be getting the benefit from the work that's been undertaken by CoLab, and we'll be using it a lot for our tier 1 and our tier 2 procurement of our professional services. So it's a great opportunity to join a very, very good panel to get better outcomes in our procurement. In terms of the statement of intent, they have continued with their 3-year strategy with no changes, and that's from page 155. If the purposes of this report is obviously to seek any feedback from council of things that they want to provide as feedback into that statement of intent before it gets finalised for June adoption.
Thank you. Adele, is there anything that you as staff would like to see changed? Is there anything that you think would be helpful to the CoLab could be involved in?
Through the mayor, no, then there's probably not. We do find they're very engaging and working with us in all their service offerings. We're only in 2 at the moment due to the nature of some of the other activities. They were focused on the waters for Waikato during this period. So we're active members in the rata and the procurement side of things. But they're certainly engaging and have recently been to visit to seek further feedback and on their services and how they might engage further with our Bay of Plenty councils.
Thank you. Councillor Coxhead.
Oh, just one little thing, presumably Miriam will now be sitting on as a director?
No,
Okay.
so what's happened there is that there's one director who represents multiple councils. So with John Holyoke leaving, it's now going to be David Spears, who's Chief Executive of Hauraki.
Okay. And just how much, just remind me how much we pay for this, and does this represent good value for money? And it did seem to me, just reading the report, it was very much Waikato centric, and I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but it did seem to be more focused there than in our region.
It is the Waikato Local Authority Shared Services,
Well,
so
so-
it will be Waikato focused, but I don't know if Adele wants to speak more.
Yes, but
more
we're a
towards that.
member, a paying member. So what do we get for it?
Through the mayor. So our current fees are $60,000, and we certainly get the value for money even through the procurement panel. And there's nothing similar that's offered through our Bay of Plenty lease.
Councillor Murray Benj.
So was it not important to have someone who was actually part of our council as being the appointment to this CoLab? I just question it, sir.
That the structure is that one CE represents a number of councils.
So does that mean when the new CEO is appointed after the elections that person will then take the place?
It's up to the CEs to choose amongst themselves, as I understand it.
That's correct.
Through the mayor, yes, that's determined by the board themselves as to the appointments.
So does that mean it's a closed shop?
Was not a closed shop. I mean, that they are CEs of member councils.
Through your worship, we'd never had a chief executive from the Bay of Plenty on CoLab. So John was the first one as far as I'm aware. So that was unusual, but it's not necessarily something that would be decided by the CEs going forward. It's a decision that they make.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions, I'll look for a mover and seconder for the 5 recommendations there. Do I have a mover and seconder for those, please? Councillor Murray Benj, Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour. Any debate? No? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So moving on to the Bay of Plenty version, the BOPLAS. That's the Statement of Intent and Half-Year Report. from page 167. So Adele.
And through the mayor. So the BOPLES, their current initiatives that they've got on during the current financial year include looking at the electoral services offering from 2025. They have been able to achieve cyber cover in November for all councils that requested cyber cover. They're actively working through loss modelling for insurance. We are undertaking aerial photography as a region. They're looking at bay maps with open data. They're continuing with our insurance renewals for the current financial year and will come to council seeking input shortly. Looking at crime prevention and CCTV requirements and monitoring, and LiDAR, and also the oblique side of the requirements in terms of the depths. The statement of intent is got their offerings and areas of interest from the CEs in terms of where they might take any other initiatives moving forward, but at this stage there's no change.
Any questions? Councillor Murray-Bench.
I read on page 186, the company is committed to providing and improving opportunities for Māori to contribute to local government decision-making processes and establishing collaborative partnership and processes that reflect mutual outcomes. What on earth is that saying?
Which paragraph is that? It's quite a lot. Yeah, whereabouts on 186? Yeah. Last paragraph. Okay, thank you. I think that reflects, well, certainly from our point of view, it reflects our strategic priorities as a council.
So I didn't think it was their job to politicise what is happening in local government. And that's what that statement actually is saying. And it's not their responsibility, sir.
Okay, Councillor Coxhead.
For very little money or running on the smell of an oily rag, they seem to do an awful lot. So I presume delivery is as it's presented here.
Through the mayor, that's why we set up the statement of intent as to what they're going to be progressing, and it also notes in the end report what their current initiatives are at the moment.
Okay, I did actually page 186 too. I did actually highlight something here. The company is committed to operating in an environmentally responsible way, good, and will embed sustainability considerations, including ethical considerations. I always find those broad sweeping statements, coming from an investment background. I used to be approached a lot by people who wanted to invest in ethical investments, and that's a very broad concept, and what I might think is ethical might not be what someone else does. So I would be keen to know what they're talking about there, because there's a lot of quite big statements in here that aren't actually quantified.
I'm sure we can provide some answers in due course. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
I notice in the chairman's letter a reference there to aerial photography of a number of districts, and further down somewhere, I'm not sure what page it is now, but I did read to funds being held in a trust account for this purpose. Is there a reason why this needs a special separate account? Is there any explanation around why that is necessary and why it's not just part of the whole package? What?
Miriam.
Through you, Your Worship, the aerial photography is carried out over a number of years, and so it's not all done year in, year out. So my understanding, after being on the BOPLES board for a while, was we just wanted to ring fence that and make sure that we had money over time. So it was really just to keep a track of it, John. There was no other reason.
So supplementary to that then, I took it from your earlier comments that it's done every few years or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, it's not done all the time. We have to fit in with where the other councils are as well in terms of what we do. So I think it's done in large blocks over a few months of a year. or even over 18 months, we might do 3 or 4 months. I mean, Marion could explain it, but I think that's how it works.
And so is that mapping then private to council? Do we share that with anyone else?
I'm pretty sure that it becomes public, it becomes part of our GIS, which we make public to everyone.
Okay, so that if we encouraged our valuers to make use of that, they would be able to have more accurate reflection of what's seen on those photographs in their valuation.
I see where that's going, Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Councillor Scrimgeour, I couldn't comment on the valuation standards or the audit, the valuer general in terms of how they do that. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any further questions? Councillor Coxhead.
Just one more. I noticed on the shareholder appointed director, Western Bay and Plenty District Council, John Holyoke again. So we are replacing.
Through the mayor, yes, we will be, and this board differs from the CoLab board, and so Miriam will be on this particular board as part of her delegations.
I can advise, I filled out the form, it just needs to go through a process in terms of appointments of directors, standard appointments, so that should be at the BOPLAS meeting, I think, on Friday.
Thank you. Councillor Wickers.
Yeah, just what's the cost for us being involved in this?
Through the mayor, I've been ready for your questions today. We're currently paying $38,000 for the annual fee, and some of the other costs, if they come in, are invoiced on a case-by-case basis. But otherwise, the annual cost is $38,000 for the last year.
Just noting that for what we get for BOPLAS versus CoLab, you know, we've only got two aspects of BOPLAS, and yet the huge list of two from CoLab and a huge list from BOPLAS. Just noting that.
Miriam would like to speak to this one.
Through your worship, BOPLAS initially secured a group insurance cover, which saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because we are in a joint, we're able to step up into a higher group and we can buy and purchase insurance at a much reduced rate. It puts us into a tier. So even just purchasing insurance, we get our money back. The others, some of the activities over the years have not been progressed, and that's not because of, for want of trying, but basically you have to have willing partners around the table to make it worthwhile, so we have enough people joining, and it's always been difficult, or councils have been reluctant to get involved in some of those other services. But I would say we definitely get good value for money out of this arrangement.
Thank you. Councillor Daly.
Yeah, thanks, Miriam, for that explanation. That is what my question is about, actually. But so obviously our long-term plan insurance premiums was a big question, and they did increase significantly, and then we've had this reduction over the last year. But to what extent does the BOPLAS involvement, how much input have they had into achieving that, as opposed to the general correction that seemed to occur as things settled down after the cyclone and big weather events for the long-term plan?
Through the mayor, so they work quite closely with the markets over in London to ensure that we get the best value and that they understand the risks of our current market. So there's a lot of work involved with getting those best outcomes as a group, as Miriam pointed to, and by having us as a group, then we can get those advantages.
Do you think the hiccup in the long-term plan was I mean, obviously they must have gone into bat for us at that time, but was that just a knee-jerk reaction from the insurance companies, do you think?
Yeah, there's been global changes and global challenges, and that's why we've had presentations from Aon in the past as to what's happening in that global market. But where we can, we will obviously want to present what the risk profile is here, and so that's best understood so we can get the best premiums.
Okay, so I think that's the end of the question. So we have 5 recommendations there. Can I have a mover and second for those recommendations, please? Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, Councillor Coxhead. Any debate on this one? No? Okay, in which case I shall put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. And we now welcome Jonathan, our CFO, to introduce the next item on page 198, which is the council's rating from Standard & Poor's.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. On the 18th of March, Western Bay received an update which affirmed a no change scenario on our long-term rating through Standard & Poor's. So Standard & Poor's is a financial health and credit worthiness organisation who not only does councils but does all organisations. They had given previous indication that there was likely to be a negative impact to councils across New Zealand through an institutional framework review which they had completed. But we were in a fortunate position of 2 councils or CCOs that retained our rating of AA, but also remaining a negative outlook at that point. The report we've received is very detailed from Standard & Poor's, but it does highlight a couple of their reasons, being that our debt position is at a level where we have borrowing capacity for future expenditure, and that our budgetary performance to date is where they'd expect it to be to retain our AA rating.
Thank you, Jonathan. Councillor Joyce.
So that's good news. Although we're still on negative outlook. From memory, when we discussed this during the long-term plan, it was explained to us we're planning on the basis that we would be downgraded because, well, as you pointed out, most councils were. So does that, I know we're well and truly still investment grade, but you know, the fact that we're still holding on to that higher rating, at least for now, does that affect our forecasts or anything in terms of interest rates or what we'll be paying for our debt?
Yes, it does. If we had have been downgraded, we would have been paying between 5 and 15 basis points more. So at this stage, we don't have that extra cost.
So we budgeted on that extra cost from memory, didn't we? Because we expected to be downgraded.
Yes, we did.
So when will we see that reflected in our projections? Is it in the annual plan, for example, this time? Because it only came out in March, right?
Yes, correct. So we'll continue to see those benefits that we've seen in our actuals, and what we've planned for our annual plan 26 is a 4.16 interest rate %. So that's what we'll continue with, that assumption.
We could still be downgraded at the end of the day. We are still on negative outlook. Yeah,
correct. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Murray-Bench.
As we move to choppy waters, may I ask what the rating is for our neighbour, and have they been downgraded or left as they were?
It's in the report, Councillor Murray-Bench, but I'm sure Jonathan can find the exact number for you. For rating.
I would need to dig through the report. I don't have that exact number in front of me, but TCC were one of the 5 councils that were yet to be re-rated. So there was 5 councils not rated on the 18th of March. So they were continuing to go through that re-rating process.
Let result be.
That's Standard & Poor's timeframe.
Yeah, my apologies, Councillor Murray-Bench. You're right, it's not in the report. So yeah, apologies for that. I thought it was
right.
All of
I
them.
understand that, sir, but as we go through negotiations and we give up power in certain areas, it's fundamental to the well-being of this council as to who our neighbours are and how they're performing.
Indeed, but I think you must be referring to waters, and they'll be separately rated. So that's a different situation.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, we've had indications that those CCOs would be a BBB graded investment, so significantly less than the councils. Yeah.
Okay. So any further questions on the rating? No. Okay. I'll look for a mover to receive that report. Councillor Granger, Councillor Joyce. Assume there's no further debate. Or you do want to? Okay.
I just wanted to point out that the last comment from Jonathan was that the CCOs will be graded BBB. That is the bottom investment rating. If you drop even one rung from there, then you get dropped from investment grade. Now, what that means is that if you're not investment grade, a lot of investors will not invest in you. So it's interesting to me that the CCOs are being given that basement, don't go any lower rating to start with, which is, it could be of interest if things don't quite go to plan.
That's countrywide. So with
The
that,
generic statement, yeah.
if there's any more debates, no, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So we now move on to another statement of intent and half-year report. So it's the LGFA statement of intent and half-year report. And I think Adele's got this one.
Through the Mayor, so for the period to 31st of December, LGFA had borrowings of $22.1 billion, being the second biggest borrow compared to the central government, loaning to 79 councils and now CCOs as well. They're continuing with their green loans, although the uptake hasn't been quite as high as they anticipated. They are on track with all their performance targets for the first 6 months of the year. And you'll note in the report itself, on page 254, our council borrowings to the end of December were 151.5 million, of which we are a shareholder to the tune of 8.3%.
Regarding the green loans, Adele, I believe we don't have any ourselves. Are there any projects coming up that might qualify for that?
Through the Mayor, so we're certainly looking at those options, particularly when we've got large projects coming on board. So,
my understanding from previous discussion on this was that there's a benefit, but it's quite small, and actually the admin was probably cost more than that.
That's correct. It has to be of a size and scale to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. Okay.
In conjunction with the statement of intent, that it's just noted that with the change to local waters done well, that there will be further loaning to the CCOs as a result of the agreements that will be reached in the CCO establishment.
Councillor Granger.
Thank you. Is there any movement on Western Bay Council being moved to a high growth council in LGFA's opinion, as opposed to in terms of those borrowing ratios?
Through the Mayor, no progress at this point in time, but it all comes down to when and how you'd need those funds and what you're demonstrating as to what projects would be required as to why those funds would be needed.
Oh, have we actually applied for this, or is it?
It's not an application process at this point in time, because we don't need to meet some criteria to prove that we'd need additional funding.
Yeah, because at the moment we're nowhere near needing the higher numbers. So I didn't think we needed to apply, if that's the right term.
That's right. Yeah. So through the Mayor, Tauranga Council and Waipa have recently had their debt to revenue ratios changed to 350% as a result of being high growth councils and their debt requirement capacity.
Councillor Joyce.
Just obviously LGFA borrows money, lend money to councils. Do we track the maturity matching to make sure that we're not getting too far out of whack? In terms of obviously, like any banking type organisation, they tend to borrow short and lend long. So how do we track that maturity and mismatch and make sure that we're comfortable with it as both a shareholder and as obviously someone who relies on LGFA?
I think that's more of a question for audit risk and finance. Which we get reports on.
We only get this report in this council meeting, so I mean,
if you want to comment, Adele, that's fine.
I do understand the comments, and there's we do get updates, and we can get an update from LGFA on this matter. But they do note in their report that their bond issuance has gone from 5.93 years to 6.8 years, and under a CCO model, it's anticipated that that length of life of the borrowings will get longer in terms of matching the debt life to the asset life. So we are anticipating changes going forward, and LGFA are anticipating that as well.
Yeah, as long as we're tracking it and we're comfortable with it, that one. Fine.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Yeah, I just wanted to return to the question of council's rating, and you mentioned, Adele, that Waipa has been moved to a growth council, and I just wondered what the rationale behind what makes those things, because I know they're a very similar sized council to us in terms of population, yet they already have more than twice the debt that we have, and we're concerned about debt increasing. So I'm just wondering whether there was a driver there that they were struggling to live on the debt level they had and needed it increased.
Through the mayor, I think as most councils would recognise, it depends on where you are in your asset replacement and life cycle as to then what your debt requirements are and what length of debt you're taking out. So for some councils, you know, they could be in that period where they've got significant projects happening, and we're certainly in the next 5 years got, you know, some large scale projects. So again, it's really around that life cycle and where you're at in terms of that debt to revenue type ratio. But councils are facing pressures in terms of compliance and increasing requirements to meet those standards and the costs associated with that.
Thank you. So, question, Councillor Daly.
Yeah, Adele, look, I haven't read this report in detail, sorry, but local government financing, LGFA has 22.155 billion of loans outstanding to 79 council and CCO borrowers, as well as 742 million of standby facilities. So based on local water done well, CCO startups, what is that amount of borrowing anticipated to increase to?
Through the mayor, there has been some comments in the report that they really can't anticipate what that might look like, given that the debt to revenue ratios will change under the new CCO model. But I think there will still be some constraints, you know, in terms of ensuring that things are going to be affordable. But at this point in time, they can't anticipate what that change might look like.
Yeah, they say it's highly uncertain, and but their KPIs suggest, you know, working closely to make to assist councils and CCOs in that matter.
I mean, just Tauranga City and potentially Western Bay on our own, we're talking about potentially $400 million of extra debt capacity. So I mean, that's half of the standby facilities just from one CCO. So am I correct in thinking that, or?
Through the mayor, I probably need to look into that further to be able to provide some more input or get some feedback from LGFA.
Yeah. Councillor Coxhead.
Just here on page 240, it talks about right at the bottom, support councils and CCOs in the development of reporting disclosures of the impacts of sector activity on climate change. And I see during March they hosted educational sessions on this. Did anybody from our council attend? And if so, what are we supposed to be putting in our reporting disclosures now?
Through the mayor, so we don't currently have the climate change disclosure reporting requirements. It's under Auckland and Christchurch at the moment, but we're aware that these things are coming, and we're certainly keeping our eyes and ears open as to what it looks like and how we're going to respond.
Okay, so we have, I don't see any more questions, so I'll look for a mover and a seconder for those 5 recommendations. I'm happy to move. Councillor Murray Benj can second. Any debate? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Excuse me. So now moving on to the independent assurance report of the dementia trust deed for the year ended 30th June 24. So Jonathan, I think this is yours on page 279.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So following the adoption of our annual report 23-24, Audit New Zealand have completed and issued their non-standard report to council for the trust deed. It's a next step in the process for completing the assurance requirements for the financial year ended, and Audit has issued their limited insurance conclusion. So noting it's not an audit as such, just their limited assurance conclusion, with no issues noted from them.
Okay, should be fairly straightforward. Does anyone have any questions though? No, in case I'll look for a mover and seconder, Councillor Granger and Deputy Mayor Scrimger. There's no further debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right, moving away from the finance side of things, we'll move to page 293, and it's the recommendatory report from the Strategy and Policy Committee for the animals, excluding dogs, and Public Places bylaws. Dana, I think this one's you, or Rebecca.
Morena tatou. Take the report as read and we're happy to answer any questions should you have them.
Thank you very much, Dana. I see this is it's a recommendation report from Strategy and Policy, and it's been consulted on. But if there's any questions from councillors, please ask away. No, okay. In which case, I shall seek a mover and seconder for those 4 recommendations. Perhaps I should move it as the Strategy and Policy Chair, but if there's anyone else, Councillor Granger, any debate on this one? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye, against, carried. Next up, we have the District Hall and Community Centre leases 2025 to 2055. Kerry.
Good morning, everybody. I'll take the report as read, and we're just wanting to renew the leases on those halls.
Are there any questions for Kerry on this one? Councillor Murray-Benge.
I want to speak in favour of it, sir. I don't have any questions. I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Okay, before we go there, I'll note your desire to move it. I did have a question, just for sake of completeness, but is there any foreseeable reason that you can see that we might want to keep it for ourselves rather than lease it out? I don't think it would be, but I need to ask the question.
No, I think it's working really well as it is right now.
Right, okay, thank you. Councillor Granger.
I note that not all the halls are on here, so are they just on different schedules of rolling over, are they?
Yes, they just will be renewed at different times.
So with no further questions, I see that I recognise Councillor Murray-Benge to move those 3 recommendations, 1, 2 and 3. I assume that's where you're going, yes. And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Granger. Councillor Murray-Benge, would you like to speak?
Our halls are really important to us, and what has amazed me is the people who actually are the ones that are responsible, and they're dedicated to actually looking after the halls. And I think of the Kaimai Hall and how it's improved over the years, and you'd think, well, it could have been tossed out for a while, sir, but it hasn't. The community has stepped up and they look after it, and our staff make sure that their maintenance is upheld. So this is a system that was introduced under Joan Kahili, who was mayor years and years ago. So it survived well, and I think the recommendations are just common sense, sir.
Thank you very much. Is there any further speakers on this one? No? Okay, so I'll put the motion for those 3 recommendations, 1 to 3. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So now we'll move to page 333. There's been a few changes that affect this one. So I'll just mention. So under 3A, the recommendation is to acknowledge the retirement of Gary Ellis and recommend his appointment to the position of local controller be rescinded. That's actually already happened. That was resolved at the Emergency Management Bay of Plenty Joint Committee meeting of the 28th of March. I think it's still appropriate that we firstly acknowledge his retirement. And, I spoke at that meeting that it's actually been 50 years in civil defence in one capacity or another, which is a tremendous achievement. And I see no reason not to maintain our recommendation of that appointment, even though it's slightly neither here nor there at this point. And then the second one, which you'll have seen in emails this morning, which we can discuss later on, but Cedric Rowe is no longer available to be alternate local controller and alternate local recovery manager. So I would suggest that we, in the recommendation, we just delete 3B. Okay, so if I can, Right, any questions first of all? Councillor Dowie.
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate, but can we have a end date for Cedric's employment?
I think we'll discuss all that later on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so with that, I think can I have a mover and seconder for recommendation 1, 2, and 3A? Councillor Wickers, Councillor Thwaites. I assume there's no more debate. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, carried. So moving on to page 337, which is the order of candidate names for the 2025 triennial elections. So basically, we've got three options there, which I think Robin is about to describe.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. I'll take the report as read. Happy to answer any questions if we have any.
Any questions on this one? Councillor Coxhead.
So I would imagine last time it was random, and did that appear to work well according to whoever?
There were issues.
I thought alphabetical was fair.
I think there was an issue last time, and if I recall correctly, we wanted random, but actually it turned out to be pseudo random. I think that was what happened. But
My understanding is that while council's resolution was that it would be random, that was not actually what happened with the voting papers due to an error by the election services provider at the time. I can't comment on what impact that had either way.
Yeah.
Can you clarify, so that every single paper was exactly the same? Is that what happened?
I can't clarify. I'm sorry, I wasn't here. I just understand it wasn't random. I'm not sure what it did look like.
So, I mean, responsibility rests on you and other staff to make sure whatever we resolve is actually carried out this time. So that would be our expectation, I think. So look, I'm happy to move recommendation 1, 2, and 3, and that we have the random order of candidate names. Seconded, Councillor Thwaites. Is there any debate on this one? No? Okay, in which case I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Okay.
The only question about that was, there was
kind of missed the boat here, Mark.
There was a bit of a mistake. Was the mistake easy to correct? Could I ask?
No, it couldn't because the papers went out.
No, I know that, but easy to make sure that it doesn't happen again?
Yes, we will absolutely be making sure that that doesn't happen again. Yes.
Okay, I think we're not going to relitigate all that now. So look, moving on to my mayor's report on page 340. Firstly, I want to do 2 introductions. Firstly, to Miriam, this is her first council meeting back in the chair. So I wanted to just acknowledge that and welcome here formally.
Thank you, Your Worship.
And then also over there, you might have noticed a young lady, Gia Nelson. She is my 2-year mentee for this year. So she's sitting in on this council meeting to see what council's all about and what we do. So welcome to you. And I think we'll invite you later on to have share tea and coffee in the councillors' lounge. So that'd be quite nice. So yeah, did you want to say a few words to introduce yourself, Gia?
Kia ora, ko Gia tōku ingoa. I am working, well, not working. I am being mentored by James, and I am excited for further on activities that where I can learn and more situations like this. And because of what I'm studying right now, law and environmental planning, I think council meetings like this, where I get to sit in and just listen how like everyone works together, but also just like thinks for the better of our people, is really exciting to see. And I'm looking forward to what happens in the future.
Thank you and welcome, Gia, and I'm looking forward to our year together and my mentoring of you. So thank you, and you can go back now. So with those two introductions, is there anything else that anyone had any questions on with regard to my mayor's report? We're kind of waiting on a few things to hear from things, but Councillor Thwaites.
I note your comments on regional deals, and it's interesting going to a Tauranga presentation and hearing the Tauranga mayor speak that he believes the regional deals are going to grant him the power to collect development levies that he can't do already. So have I missed something in the regional deal package that he sees that as a super committee is going to be formed up, who's going to do some negotiations beyond the council power? Or
well, no. So regional deals have to be approved by the council members. I mean, the negotiation will be on a small, with a smaller group, but it will have to be approved by council afterwards.
Yeah, well, I wasn't really in that regional deal I saw presented, so I look forward to its development.
Okay, Miriam.
Just a comment on the levies that were referred to. They will replace financial contributions. Development contributions. So it's a different regime. So it's not in addition to Councillor Thwaites. So it's going to be interesting to see how that will differ from the current regime. I think it will be more permissive and it will be more encompassing, and I think it will be more standardised. But we have no more information than that. So I think it's really early days, and I don't think we'll have that resolved within the next 2 years.
So that cut to my point, how would a regional deal make any difference? How is a Bay of Plenty going to do something different to Waikato, to Northland?
It's potential there'll be bespoke funding and financing options, but we don't know at this point.
Well, let's see a government do that, right?
Yeah. Councillor Joyce.
On the LGNZ, I see they've got an all of government meeting coming up. I presume you will not be attending that. We're looking to save money.
No, I'm not going to that one.
Yeah, so we have no more LGNZ functions in the list, I guess.
No, I'll be still going to some of them. I've been invited.
So will that be a cost to the council because the council's resolved to not be involved in LGNZ?
I can still attend meetings as I see fit.
Okay, so there goes that saving.
Okay, any more questions? Councillor Maybench.
Sir, you met with Sam Uffindale, and one of the things that I think this council appreciated under Kieran McNulty, he met with we councillors. He didn't meet with the mayor, and I wonder why, in fact, our MPs aren't meeting with us as councillors and not just with you as mayor.
I think it's important to have a mixture. There's MPs can certainly come and talk to council as a whole. Sometimes it'll be better to talk to, or easier to talk to one, one-on-one or two-on-one sort of situation. But certainly they can come and talk to us as a group. No problem there.
So my question is, Sam Uffindale came. So the purpose of his visit, because he'd already been to see us as a whole when he was first elected and was happy to work with us. And so what was his aim when he came to see
we have quarterly catch-ups, so that was one of those wide-ranging discussions and on numerous topics. I can give you more information later if you want, but I haven't got it right in front of me at this point.
No. I just think, sir, that it's so important. We're leaving we've left the Local Government Association. We need to work more closely with our members of parliament and make sure that the ministers understand where we sit on the issues that are before us. And we've got the present Minister of Local Government has a batch in Waihi Beach, and he should be someone that we should be able to communicate with pretty easily. And so I just thought Kieran McNulty did a really good job of making sure that whether he took any notice, of course, is another matter, sir, but beside the point, he at least came and listened to us as we shared our concerns with him. So, and also I've done a report on the cruise industry presentation. Have you done one as well, sir?
I'm happy to answer questions on it. I don't think a written report was necessary in this instance.
Right.
I mean, just to clarify that I and Councillor Murray Bender invited on a tour, presentation from the port and the cruise ship industry, and a tour of a cruise ship, which was Fascinating.
And my other question, sir, is regional film officers of New Zealand industry. Are we going to see more films being produced within our bay? Is there any effort being done with that?
Absolutely. I mean, Film Bay of Plenty is a service, we have a service delivery contract with them, and they encourage filming in our area and across the bay. And that event was a get together of all those organisations across the country to share what they do. Okay, Councillor Coxhead.
I did just want to back up what Councillor Murray Benj said about us meeting with MPs as a council as well. I think particularly now that we're not a member of LGNZ, when I was doing my research on that, I did speak to other councillors around the country, and that's those that aren't members, and that's what they do. They directly deal with the MPs locally. So I do back what she says there.
Okay, we can certainly organise
Yeah.
meetings with
Thank you.
MPs as necessary. Councillor Wickers.
Yeah, just if there was any update on the alternate options for the funding of the MTFJ that you're working on. Any progress here?
No update at the moment, but still working through that. Thanks. Councillor Maybench.
And sir, what a delight it is. I thank you for welcoming Miriam Terrace, and how delighted we are. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we should note that in the minutes. That would be quite appropriate. Councillor Daly.
James, which radio and what was the radio interview you did? Read LGNZ departure?
That was on, well, as you did a couple, but there was the platform, and I think it was RNZ, but yeah. Okay, if there's no further questions, I'm happy to move my report. Seconder, Councillor Ray. Did you want to speak? Would you have one more question?
One more question?
Yeah, go on.
I can stretch the limits. I don't know. Did we there was some, we had the place brand workshop.
Yep.
And there was some question marks about direction given to the group after the meeting. And I'm just wondering if we're doing something to resolve the bit of tension after that.
Well, there was tension. I think it was pretty, well, not quite, but almost unanimous support. But I think what's planned is a issues and options paper to come for us just to just go through the formal process of how we deal with that.
So we may be able to resolve that for the annual plan?
I believe that, or I mean, the letter gave notice that we'd have to go through a formal process. It can either be done through this annual plan or the next annual plan, but there's options there.
I mean, it seems reasonable that we try and get something in place for this coming annual plan.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I've moved, the motion's been moved and seconded. I'll now put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. There's no information for a seat. Now with the confidential agenda, since there's only minutes for confirmation, to avoid moving into confidential, if there's no corrections, I'm assuming there's no corrections anyone wants to make, I'll look for a mover and seconder to confirm those resolutions, which are for the confidential minutes of the council meeting on the 18th of February. Well, I'll do it one at a time. Confidential minutes of the council meeting on the 18th of February, I'll move that. Deputy Mayor Scrimger, all in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And then secondly, the confidential minutes of the council meeting held on the 18th of March 2025. I'll look for a move and a seconder for those. I'll go with Councillor Coxhead on this one. Councillor Granger. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So that means we don't need to go into confidential, and I'll close the meeting at 10:30, which is